Hello there. Thank you so much for joining us. This is News Channel Nebraska. My name's Eric McKay. Let's take a look at our top headlines today. Universities across the U.S. trying to hold graduation ceremonies despite concerns over protests. Pro-Palestinian demonstrators disrupting the norm at many schools. A handful of universities say that caused administrators to cancel or change their commencement plans. Others held their ceremonies despite demonstrations. Amy Kiley has more.
I ask that you allow the program to continue.
With chanting, walkouts, and graduation stage takeovers, pro-Palestinian students are finding ways to protest during university commencement ceremonies.
It's sad, and I think it's a really bad way to end your college career.
Some students and parents are upset at Pomona College outside Los Angeles. The school says it decided ahead of last night's ceremony to move it off campus for safety reasons. That's in response to demonstrators occupying the original venue.
As our universities celebrate, we should also be extremely critical of their involvement that has led to the decimation of entire educational infrastructure.
In North Carolina,
I know all of you here are going to use all of your brains and muscle and soul to improve the world.
This video shows about 30 students at Duke University walking out of Sunday's commencement service just before comedian Jerry Seinfeld spoke. Some appear to be holding Palestinian flags. And here's another walkout at Virginia Commonwealth University during the governor's speech Saturday and chanting at UC Berkeley the same day.
I invite you to speak with me after the event in a space that's more appropriate.
Free Palestine!
I'm Amy Kiley reporting.
Closer to home, a Norfolk man is in jail after authorities say he caused damage in multiple hit-and-run crashes. 27-year-old Damian Perry was arrested on Sunday afternoon. Police say Perry was behind the wheel of a vehicle that crashed into a parked pickup on Norfolk Avenue, then drove off. Police say he also struck signs and was seen driving recklessly a few blocks away. Once Perry was pulled over, authorities say they found drugs in his vehicle. He was arrested for leaving the scene of an accident and driving under the influence, among other charges. Well, election officials in Nebraska aren't expecting a terribly busy day at the polls on Tuesday, but they think more voters will turn out than 2 years ago. Secretary of State Bob Evnen says his office is estimating a 35% voter turnout in Tuesday's primary. That would be up from the 33.5% turnout seen in 2022. This is a historic election day in Nebraska, the first under the state's new voter ID law. The state election officials say polling places are ready for the new rules.
Nebraska's polling places will be fully staffed and prepared for voters on Election Day. More Nebraskans have stepped up to serve as poll workers, and county election offices are ready so that voters can cast their ballots securely and independently. We anticipate that most voters will use their driver's licenses or state IDs to fulfill Nebraska's new voter ID requirement.
Evnen says over 125,000 early ballots have already been received. Over 5,000 have voted early at their county election offices. Now, 11 Nebraska counties only vote by mail. 19 have partially by mail elections. Evnen says they account for about 50,000 requests for early voting. As for the election, the 5 Nebraska Republicans on Capitol Hill have won, considered in a serious challenge in tomorrow's primary. 2nd District Congressman Don Bacon being hit from the right by Omaha businessman Dan Frye, who ran for Congress and lost in 2014. Joe Jordan has our report.
Incumbent Omaha area Congressman Don Bacon insists he has a huge lead going into Tuesday's primary over fellow Republican Dan Frye.
I'm the conservative alternative.
I'm a Trumper.
Do you take Dan Frye's challenge seriously?
I take every challenge seriously, and I just work hard every day, but I do believe I'm in a good spot.
So good that Bacon recently released a poll that finds him 50 points, yes, 50 points ahead of Frye. At the same time, though,
Congressman Don Bacon.
in the final days of the race, Bacon is shoring up his conservative credentials, with nationally known right-wing media's Mark Levin coming to Bacon's defense.
I'm going to endorse Don Bacon for the 2nd Congressional District in Nebraska and hope we can hold that seat. that used to belong to a Democrat and leans heavy blue for Biden. Like I say, he's not some radical liberal. On the other hand, he's not an isolationist. He's got a primary challenger. I think the guy works at a bank or was a marketer or somebody like that. Challenge him, he claims, from the right. I don't know what that means. I think he's an isolationist. I don't side with Russia against Ukraine.
No apologies from Fry.
And I'm not in favor of even thinking about sending hundreds of billions of dollars to the likes of a Ukraine, where we're going to work to help secure their borders while we're being overrun. It doesn't make sense.
What doesn't make sense to some Bacon-backing Republicans is the fact that 10 years ago, Fry came up just short of upsetting then GOP Congressman Lee Terry in the 2014 Republican primary, which was followed by a Democratic win that November. When you ran against Lee Terry and he wins, then he goes on to run against Brad Ashford, the Democrat, in the general election. And Ashford wins. First time the Democrats had held that seat in almost 20 years.
Right.
Do you regret your run against Terry? Because some argue that you weakened Terry, loosened him up for Brad Ashford.
No, I don't regret it at all. We did what was necessary. And I will tell you, Lee Terry was likely to lose that race anyways. There's going to be some that don't want to hear that. But the mood of the voter was that they had had enough. They were ready for change. And I will tell you, this race is teeing up to be very similar to that race.
In the meantime, Democrat State Senator Tony Vargas is waiting to see who he'll face in November. Donald Trump lost the congressional district to Joe Biden by 7 points. So how does a Trumper win that district in November against Tony Vargas?
Those that might have been on the fence and didn't cast their vote for Donald Trump, I think that they have seen what the consequences of that decision is. So when you look at the economy, you look at the border, you look at where we're at from a social and cultural perspective, I think that the average voter is going to race to the polls to vote for Donald Trump.
Don Bacon for Congress, Nebraska, 2nd District. There's some issues that I might disagree with him on, but we need that seat.
A seat Bacon held on to 2 years ago, eking out a 2-point win over Vargas. It's a seat clearly in jeopardy once again. In Omaha, Joe Jordan, News Channel, Nebraska.
A News Channel Nebraska will have live coverage as the results come in Tuesday evening, with live results and check-ins from courthouses and watch parties all over the state. Tune in. Our coverage starts at 9 p.m. Central, 8 p.m. Mountain. Well, if you're seeing a bit of haze in the sky today, that's because of smoke blowing south from raging wildfires in Canada. Some 3,200 residents in northeastern British Columbia were under evacuation orders over the weekend. The Parker Lake fire is now spread to more than 4,000 acres. Residents were also warned to evacuate parts of Alberta because of a separate wildfire spanning 16,000 acres. The smoke is also wafting down into parts of the U.S. Minnesota was placed under an air quality alert through Monday. No official alerts have been issued yet in Nebraska. Well, those geomagnetic storms that brought dazzling colors to the area that rarely see it did cause some chaos. The New York Times reporting that navigational systems and farming equipment broke down over the weekend. The equipment, including tractors, used GPS to plant precise rows and avoid gaps and overlap. Landmark Implement, a John Deere dealer in the Midwest, was warning farmers about the disruptions. It's bad timing. This is, of course, the height of planting season throughout the Midwest. A professor at the University of Lincoln has published a study highlighting how social media impacts new mothers. The study was put together by marketing and PR professor Sierra Kirkpatrick. The study identified perceived parental confidence, the way a mother perceives her ability to be a mom. Harsh comparisons for mothers with a high social comparison orientation can cause them to doubt their ability and put a damper on their self-esteem as parents. Kirkpatrick says a good practice for mothers is to have relationships with other moms in real life. She says it could be beneficial to have open and honest dialogue about their journey through motherhood. Kirkpatrick says she hopes the study will help mental health providers understand how mothers are affected by perceptions on social media and provide a new way to treat mothers postpartum. A somber day at an elementary school in the Panhandle. An early dismissal on Friday marked the final day ever at a school that stood for 90 years in Sydney. Current and former students, teachers, and administrators shared moments to send off North Elementary School The building needed repairs. Administrators say it faced a shortfall of almost $600,000, which is the reason they're closing the school. But Friday wasn't about money. One former student and staff member shared his experience at the school and how relationships from his time there have continued today.
I have many, many fond memories of this school and the people that have taught here and went to school here. It was my sanctuary. I felt very included and a part of something bigger than myself when I attended here. I'm so grateful I did attend here. It set me up for a lot of success.
The building was open for tours from the public while current students sang songs and recited poems in memory of the school. And while high schoolers are waiting to head down to Burke for high school state track this week, middle schoolers showcased their talent in Gothenburg over the weekend. 10 meet records were set on Saturday as teams from all over the state gathered for the middle school championships. In the boys division, Gothenburg took first, 67.5 points, followed in second by Columbus. For Beatrice, for girls, it was a close race at the top. Sandy Creek just beat out Bennington South in first with 33 points. La Vista was in third. The meet's been run in Gothenburg since 2005. This was the first year the meet had been televised in its history. You can stay up to date with the very latest by following us online. Head to newschannelnebraska.com. Click on the News tab there. You can also follow us on X, like us on Facebook and Instagram as well. Thanks for joining us. Have a great day. You're watching News Channel Nebraska.